What I want to look at here is kind of the getting started point. You know, we know we're going to do things over and over. We want to start to make this our own, and we want to eliminate some of the redundant steps and processes. So where I'm going to start, because this applies to everything or could apply to everything, is with my layers. What I want to do is create a few new layers. So I'm going to right click on the layer manager, go to new, and I'm going to start with my existing contours. Okay. I'm going to set the color for those, the point mark if it has a point mark, and then the line style. Okay. I'm going to do the same for my proposed contours. I'll give them a color, line style with point symbol. And I'll continue on with additional layers that I may want to have. Now, in my choice, my preference is that I differentiate existing and proposed with the letters EX and then a dash. I've seen underscore, I've seen all sorts of different things used here. Use what makes the most sense for you and be consistent with it. So one of the things we can look at doing is assigning these to groups. This has uses or benefits outside of Takeoff and can be helpful in just general drafting and other scenarios. One of the ways we can get here is by right-clicking, going to Layer Groups. Here you can create new groups, select an active group, and look at the settings for a group, or in my case, I'm going to build the group from the layer group settings. In my existing, what I want to do is add layers to this existing group. I'm going to use the Shift key to highlight all the layers I want as part of existing. And then what I'm going to do is go to the design group. Here, I'll add layers to the design group. Now, these groups are created by default. They're part of the program install, so these are here. But again, you could create your own groups as well as do rename. These can be saved to a library file so that you would never have to do this again if you lost it, had to reinstall, or you wanted to share it with someone else. Okay, so the layer grouping is done. Now I want to look at parts of the template that apply more specifically to Takeoff. And we're going to start with the material library. Okay, you have a global material library and a project library. What I'm going to work on in this one is my project library. Materials created here can be copied to the global library, or I could always take stuff in the global and copy it to the local. So I'm going to start with a new material called building pad. The type is an area, and this has subgrades. What I want to do is I want to enter those subgrades. So we're going to add the materials. We're going to start with concrete. That concrete in my building pad has a depth of 6 inches. If I know the cost, I can enter it, as well as the shrink or the density of that material. That'll all come into play later in my Takeoff. Concrete is done. I'll go back and add a base layer to this, and I'll do the base at 12 inches. Again, I can enter cost, shrink, density, and I can even change colors between these different materials so they show different when they're viewed. Okay, the building pad is done. I'll do another for a 6-inch water line. Now, what'll be different with this is that it won't be an area, it will be a length. If I leave it as is, when I do my reports, it's simply going to report the total length of all segments on that material, or all segments that are assigned that material. I could take it a step further and say, well, this is a little bit more than length. This is a pipe. This is a 6-inch diameter pipe with a 1/2-inch pipe thickness. Okay, and notice I'm in inches here, and that's why I entered 6 inches and 1/2 inch. You have the ability to do racking and do multiple rows and columns and set spacing, but I'm going to keep this one simple. So I added those two. Again, if I went to the global library, I could take my parking lot, for example, and transfer it to my project. And if I had an 8-inch water line, I could transfer that as well. So those are all now part of my library. Data can go back and forth, copy it to the global, copy it to the local. What I'm focused on here is building my template. So these are materials that I'm going to use over and over in every project. Okay, and this is one way to go about doing that. What I want to do now is in the takeoff menu, I want to assign those materials to layers. All I'm doing is reducing some of the steps that I have to do down the road. So my proposed building, for example, is already in layer group design. If it weren't, I could click to add it to design. And then I click assign to assign my building pad to that layer. My parking, I will assign parking lot. My 6-inch water line, and I can also double click to get to the same thing as the assign. Okay, so we can assign those. Once I have all of these things set, once I've created the layers, I've defined the groups, I've built my library, I've assigned these, I can save this file. I'm going to save it in a folder called template, and I'm going to give it a name. From here, what I want to do is in settings, go to the program settings, and for the libraries, I want to browse out to that file. Paul template file. And I'm going to tell it here to create new jobs from that default. So basically, every time I say new, it's going to use that template to create the job. Okay, I can save this. So again, my settings are saved. And I say OK. So what happens now when I say new, those are the layers we created. There are the project materials, and there are the definitions. Okay, so what this looks like in Takeoff in fast speed. There's my total material being added to this site. So I didn't have to go back and reestablish anything. The template was already set up the way I wanted that to be. For more workflows like this, for more details on templates and settings and getting started in Topcon Office, please log into your My Topcon Now account and take a look at the content that's available for Topcon Office users today.